And new tonight, 12 people from Fort Smith and Pensacola are stuck in Mexico riding out Hurricane Delta as it hits the Yucatan Peninsula. The group arrived in Cancun, Mexico on Sunday. They were evacuated from their resort today and say a letter was given to guests from the hotel. And after consulting the Mexican authorities, letting guests know that they should have planned to book flights home immediately if possible. The letter also explained if plans to return home were not immediately doable, they would be taken to a shelter for safety. The windows on the schoolhouse that the River Valley group were moved to are currently boarded up. The group says they plan to leave Cancun and come back to the River Valley on Friday, but that's still 48 hours away. They say they're making the best of the situation and are anxiously awaiting what Hurricane Delta brings. Talk about bad timing, huh? You think you're on there for a beach vacation and it turns into probably not what you were expecting, huh?
I would be really scared if I were there because it's not my house.
Of course not.
A lot of people, but
it's
crazy.
Yeah, and you're there with strangers and in a place you never expected.
Exactly.
But hopefully they'll stay safe and make it home Friday, right?
Exactly. And that right now that Hurricane Delta is actually making landfall in Cancun.